Who has never had that day when you just felt like kicking the bucket, telling off the boss, the traffic, and all the rules to go to hell? Well, we have a name for that, urged Tyler Durden. He is not just a cool guy from Fight Club, he is our wildest and most unfiltered side that we lock away in the basement of our mind. And what if I told you that this inner Tyler Durden is controlling you in silence, that he is behind your biggest frustrations and even those crazy decisions you regret the next day? We are hooked on Tyler because he does what we dream of doing. He is the freedom, the courage, and the authenticity that society insists on cutting out. But beware, he is also the fastest path to self-destruction. In this video, we are going to forget the movie synopsis and dive into the psychology of the fight. We will unravel the mind of the protagonist, understand the traumas that created Tyler, and, most importantly, discover why this character still resonates with us so much today. Get ready because the penny will drop. You will never look at your own attitudes the same way again. But first, if you are a fan of cinema psychology and want to understand the mind behind your favorite character, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss any video. Tyler Durden is that kind of character who, even without truly existing, feels more real than many people we meet in everyday life. He appears as the friend we would all like to have, free, laid back, unafraid to break the rules. A guy who lives on the edge but with a confidence that is almost hypnotic, and that is exactly why he is so captivating. If we stop to think, Tyler represents a collective fantasy. Who has never wanted to tell the boss off, make credit card bills disappear, or simply drop everything and start from zero? He is the voice that says what most of us only think in silence, a sort of alter ego of our own bottled-up rebellion. But the curious detail is that Tyler does not appear out of nowhere. He is born from the mind of an ordinary man, lost in a repetitive life, trapped between offices and standardized apartments. That nameless protagonist, who could be any one of us, creates Tyler as a desperate response to monotony. And that already reveals a lot about his role in the story. It is interesting to note that, deep down, Tyler is not another. He is the wild part that the protagonist never had the courage to embrace. It is as if all the nonconformity that had been dormant needed to gain flesh, face, and voice. Tyler is the unfiltered version of what had been stored inside for a long time. When Tyler appears, the narrative changes tone. The life that was once made of reports and meetings becomes nights of soap-making, underground fights, and outlandish plans. The most curious thing is how the protagonist gives himself over to it, body and soul, as if he had finally found meaning. It is like when we meet someone who says exactly what we would like to say, but never had the courage. And if we look closely, we will realize that Tyler is not just a character in the film, he is almost a mirror, a reflection of our own social frustrations, of the emptiness we feel while seeking meaning in such an automated world. Tyler shows us in an exaggerated way what, on a smaller scale, lives inside each person. The interesting thing is that this initial construction generates an immediate connection with the viewer. We recognize in the protagonist that feeling of being stuck in a routine without purpose, and when Tyler comes on the scene, it is as if something inside us also awakens. After all, who has never wanted to scream in the middle of the silence of their own life? And that is where the magic of this character lies. Tyler does not need to be real to be true. He shows us that sometimes the most intense part of who we are is hidden in our own shadows. But of course, when the shadow takes control, the consequences can be much scarier than we imagine. The story of Tyler begins in an almost imperceptible way, like a spark. He emerges when the protagonist reaches the limit of exhaustion, without sleeping, without feeling anything, merely existing. It is in this emptiness that Tyler finds space to be born. He is the direct product of a purposeless life, molded by boredom and the feeling of insignificance. But the genius lies in the contrast. While the protagonist is fragile, anxious, and full of fears, Tyler is exactly the opposite. He is daring, chaotic, full of energy, and above all, free. This duality creates a clash that not only drives the narrative, but also makes us reflect on our own lives. After all, how many times have we created idealized versions of ourselves in our heads? Little by little, Tyler ceases to be just a voice and begins to gain territory. He builds a new lifestyle, creates his own rules, and even a sort of community around him. Fight Club is not just a space for punches and bruises, it is the place where ordinary men unload everything they swallowed for years. The anger, the frustration, the impotence, everything finds release there. The conflict grows even more intense when we realize that Tyler is not satisfied with being just a temporary relief. He wants to grow. He wants to dominate. He wants to turn that rebellion into something greater. It is like a virus. It starts small, almost invisible, but suddenly it has taken over everything. What was once catharsis becomes revolution. And at this point, the narrative stops being just about fights and starts becoming about power. Tyler transforms suffering into strength and convinces others to follow the same path. He creates a cult of destruction, a philosophy that challenges the foundations of modern society. And the protagonist, blinded by admiration, dives deeper and deeper into this abyss. The scariest thing is realizing how the line between control and chaos fades away. The protagonist begins to lose the notion of where Tyler is a choice and where he is an inevitable destiny. It is like when we get into something just for fun, and when we realize it, it already dominates our whole life. This uncontrolled growth of Tyler reveals an uncomfortable truth when we feed our repressed impulses too much. They do not just stay under control. They grow, multiply, and start deciding for us. It is the kind of conflict that everyone, at some level, has already experienced. Who has never been carried away by something that started small but grew to enormous proportions. And with each step of this story, what seemed like liberation turns into prison. The protagonist is no longer in command. Tyler is the one who sets the rules, who guides the course, who decides what is real. And this is only the beginning of an escalation that will reveal even deeper layers of the relationship between the two. Tyler Durden is, above all, the face of what the protagonist never had the courage to be. He represents the audacity that was repressed, the courage that was forgotten, and the anger that was swallowed in silence. It is as if every frustration of the protagonist had gained body, voice, and attitude and decided to appear in the form of Tyler. He is also a cruel mirror. He shows what life could be like if fear, doubt, and social pressure did not exist. The protagonist, faced with Tyler, confronts his own limitations, but in an almost seductive way. He is that friend we want to follow, even knowing he might take us to dangerous places. In practice, Tyler functions as a trigger. He awakens emotions that were buried, decisions that were shelved, and impulses that were dormant. It is as if every punch thrown in Fight Club was not just physical but symbolic, a way of breaking the invisible chains that held the protagonist to mediocrity. At the same time, Tyler is a lesson about extremes. He shows the fascinating side of freedom but also the dangerous side of lack of control. Their relationship is a constant dance between inspiration and destruction, between feeling alive and losing oneself. It is a reminder that not all freedom is healthy. What makes this dynamic even more interesting is that Tyler is a teacher without a curriculum. He teaches about authenticity and breaking patterns, but also about the risks of taking everything to the limit. He is that figure we admire and fear at the same time because he reveals truths that no one else has the courage to show. For the protagonist, Tyler is a release valve and, paradoxically, a prison. He represents both the hope of change and the danger of being completely lost. It is the classic lesson that what fascinates us can also destroy us if we do not know how to balance it. And we realize that, deep down, Tyler is not there to be just a friend or just an enemy. He is there to show a path, a possibility that the protagonist would not dare to explore alone. It is almost like a treasure map, but with traps at every turn, reminding us that not everything that shines is gold. This symbolic function of Tyler is something that connects us directly to the story. Who has never had someone or something that brought out parts of us that were hidden? He is the warning, the push, and at the same time the temptation to abandon everything that holds us back. And this sets the stage for the next chapter of the story, where we will see how these forces clash. Tyler Durden is the materialization of the protagonist's internal conflicts, and it is fascinating to realize how each of his acts reveals deep wounds. Every punch, every radical plan, every provocation is not just rebellion, it is a stifled cry, a reflection of the frustration and emptiness that the protagonist has felt for years. The protagonist lives in a suffocating routine, full of norms and expectations, and Tyler blows it up in a way that hurts and fascinates. It is as if every social rule he broke was a scar that the protagonist carried silently. The trauma of living without purpose finds a body, and that body is Tyler. Tyler is also the voice of what was never said. The protagonist repressed emotions, desires, and even anger for so long that he needed someone or something to speak for him. Every action of Tyler is a reflection of these repressed emotions, a bridge between what the protagonist feels and what he does not yet understand about himself. And the most intriguing thing is that Tyler not only represents anger and frustration, but also desire for freedom and authenticity. The protagonist is constantly reminded that his limitations are, in large part, mental constructions. Tyler challenges these limits, showing the extreme side of what we all secretly dream of experiencing. The impact of this on the narrative is profound. Every internal conflict of the protagonist comes to life in the form of Tyler. He is both mentor and antagonist, forcing decisions that reveal hidden fears and unresolved traumas. In every scene, it becomes clear that it is not gratuitous violence but intense psychological exploration. This duality teaches that our greatest internal challenges often present themselves externally. What Tyler does with the protagonist is a mirror of what we ignore in ourselves: frustration, existential emptiness, and the need to feel alive. And there is an element of temptation and danger. Trauma is not just pain, it is seductive. It shows that there is pleasure in breaking rules, in the feeling of power, and in absolute freedom. The protagonist learns in the hardest way that dealing with trauma involves balancing desire and consequence. Finally, the relationship with Tyler shows that our internal conflicts, when ignored, can turn into external forces that dominate our choices. The protagonist learns, even painfully, that personal transformation requires courage, reflection, and sometimes facing one's own shadow without fear. The forces that Tyler represents shape the protagonist in a profound, almost irreversible way. He ceases to be that dull, anxious, and submissive man and begins to recognize himself in every repressed impulse. It is as if his very personality were being rebuilt, brick by brick, through punches, confrontations, and rebellion. Every action of Tyler forces the protagonist to make decisions that once seemed impossible. He learns to take a stand, to question what he always accepted as normal, and even to challenge social norms. It is an intense, painful process, but one that awakens a new awareness of who he really is. But the transformation is not linear. Tyler's influence brings a roller coaster of emotions: enthusiasm, fear, guilt, and excitement. These extreme choices show that total freedom has a cost, and that every step toward authenticity requires courage to deal with the consequences. The protagonist begins to experience life more intensely. Every punch in Fight Club, every risky plan is an opportunity to explore limits and expand horizons. Tyler acts as a catalyst, revealing hidden potential and the decision-making power that had been dormant. And it is curious how these forces shape not only external attitudes, but also the inner self of the protagonist. He begins to face fears, desires, and frustrations with brutal honesty. His self-image changes from fragility to a more conscious, though unstable, version of himself. Tyler's influence also shows that choices are always a reflection of the balance between shadow and light. The protagonist learns that embracing a part of himself can strengthen, but also destabilize. And it is in this play of forces that the narrative finds its psychological climax. In addition, we see that these choices impact everyone around. The protagonist begins to influence and even manipulate others, reflecting how our internal changes reverberate in the external world. Tyler teaches that true transformation does not happen in isolation, it is relational. Finally, this dynamic reinforces a universal lesson: our choices are the result of internal conflict, and the way we deal with it defines who we become. The protagonist learns, between chaos and self-discovery, that personal growth requires facing internal forces and taking responsibility for the consequences. So what did you think of this analysis of Tyler Durden's mind and how he impacts the protagonist? Did you see yourself in any part of this story? I want to know in the comments which character you want us to analyze in the next video on the channel. Remember, every choice we make is influenced by internal forces that we do not always understand. Just like the protagonist, we all have hidden parts that can either free us or dominate us. The difference is in how we deal with them. If you enjoyed this psychological deep dive, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you will not miss any analysis that will make you think, reflect, and maybe even see yourself in a new way. The most interesting thing is that these contents are not just about movies or characters, they are about us, about real life, about our decisions and how we can learn to deal better with our own shadows. So comment, share, subscribe, and let us together explore every layer of these characters that seem fictional but carry truths about all of us. Your participation makes all the difference and helps build a community that thinks, reflects, and grows together.